absolutely. So you said it well. I love helping both real estate agents and investors. And what my work does is it helps them live a bigger life. So I want everyone to live a big and exciting life. But John, big and exciting to me is different than big and exciting for you. And so I like to use real estate investing as the vehicle to create more freedom in our lives because it creates passive income or passive ish income, helping these people live bigger lives. So I coach real estate agents. I host intimate retreats for real estate investors. Agents, you guys are invited, but it is geared toward the real estate investing side rather than your real estate sales business. And I also founded a company where we help real estate investors take their unit and go from vacant to launched on a 5-star either Airbnb or medium term rental strategy. So my company will furnish your rental, get you set up, your house manuals, automated messaging, basically everything that you need to go from vacant to launched.
I love it. Thank you for that background, Sarah. So there are a couple things that really intrigue me with what you just said, right? You talked about helping both investors and agents, but leaning more to the investor side of things, as well as focusing on medium-term rentals and coaching people and consulting people with these retreats. So I want to start with kind of your own portfolio. As we are recording this, I know you are in Des Moines, Iowa right now, and you're a bit of a nomad. So talk to us about your own investing strategy and what are you invested in right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in Des Moines, as you said, but I don't live here. I am just here putting together some furnished rentals. I just closed on 2 duplexes, so added 4 units to my portfolio in the last 2 weeks. And I've been living out of my suitcase for 3 years and 3 months.
That's incredible. So you've been on the road living out of a suitcase for 3 years and 3 months, currently in Des Moines, putting together this furnished rental. Um, what sparked you to go in and enjoy life this way? I mean, that seems nerve wracking for most people, but here you are living out of a suitcase for the last 3+ years. Why did you decide this was the life you wanted to live?
I got a taste of it and then I wanted more. And so I've had a few internships abroad. I taught English abroad. And every time I go abroad, John, I'm just lit on fire. Like I'm the best version of myself. I get everything that I want out of life. I'm meeting new people. I'm trying new things. I'm learning. I'm growing both professionally and personally. And I'm having a lot of fun. And so, like, why wouldn't I want this lifestyle? And I can tell you some cons, don't get me wrong. But it's so exciting. And so basically I went abroad and I thought, okay, how can I continue to do this? And for me, real estate investing has allowed me to go wherever I want, whenever I want.
So I think it's really interesting because most people like to travel, right? And that's one of the things we hear very often is I want to travel more. It's a big goal. It's a big reason for why people want to invest in real estate. And here you are saying, you know what? I don't want to just travel. I want to be immersed in that experience. I love being abroad. You've spent different tours, whether it be through internships or teaching abroad, and you decided this is a lifestyle you wanted more of. When you talk about some of the perks and feeling like you are your best self, what do you think drives that? Because again, I think many people feel that way when they're on vacation, right? Or when they're traveling, but then you come back to, the real world, if you will, and have the rest of your regular life come back into play. So what's the disconnect there or that thing you said, you know what, how do I replicate this experience more frequently in my life?
Yeah, well, it's funny that you use the word disconnect because I think what it is, like why I love traveling so much, is connections. I am making a connection to a place, an experience, an attitude, or a culture, even. But more importantly, it's the people. It's other travelers that I'm meeting because it's at least we have one thing in common. We like to travel, and then it's connections with the locals and connections that otherwise you wouldn't have. Like you're walking on the street, someone sees the way that I look and they're like, oh, you're not from around here. And they're like, my brother lives in Miami. And the next thing you know, you're invited over to dinner at their house. And I don't know about you, but that doesn't happen here in Des Moines. I'm like driving my car to Home Goods, putting things in my car, and then driving to the rental property and furnishing the rental property. I'm not just walking around the neighborhood in the same way that I am when I'm immersed in a different culture.
No, I think that's a great insight there about just, some of the reasons we like traveling and getting the chance to be the best version of yourself and connecting with other people. And connections is such a huge component to it as well. Now, you said real estate is the vehicle that allows you to pursue that lifestyle more. As you're in Des Moines setting up that rental, talk to us a little bit more about how you are able to manage your rental portfolio, considering you are really never home or you really don't have a home. So, how are you managing these properties?
Yeah, a lot of help. So I am self-managing and I'm not a parent, John, but I'm sure that you've told your kids things and you're like, okay, I don't really do that, but you should, kid. And so I tell my clients the same thing. I self-manage, but you, client, you should use a property manager. And so I do think people should use property managers when applicable. But if they don't want to, they don't have to. So I'm able to manage from afar because I've built systems around my business. So one thing I don't like on podcasts is it's like, okay, but what systems, what does she actually mean? So what I actually mean is I have a long list of plumbers, electrician, handyman, lawn care. I have people that I can call on, hey, this weird thing happened at my unit. Could you run by there and look at it for me? And with technology, I don't need to be in the US. I can be anywhere in the world as long as I can access Venmo or PayPal or even just wiring money. And then you have video chat, pictures. They can send me videos. There's no need for anyone to be there. And so, am I trying to convince the world to like move to Central America and buy properties in Iowa? No, I'm not. But what I do want to give investors is a path that they can invest out of state. Because one of my mottos is I think you should live where you want and invest where the numbers make sense. And so, for those of you listening that live in an expensive market, you can buy a rental in Ohio or Idaho and manage it from 400 miles away or 4,000 miles away.
No, it's great insight. And I love that quote there. Live where you want, invest where it makes sense based on the numbers. And I'm glad that you opened up the door to talk about the systems and processes you use, because I do think it's very important to have a list of resources to go to for anything that pops up at your property. But then also, how do you kind of confirm that the work is being done accordingly, right? Do you have video chats, pictures? How are you communicating these things? And then there are ways to process invoices, Venmo, to make the payments take place through a lot of the technology and the apps that exist today. You talked about getting that list of vendors. Many people starting out don't have that. So where did you begin? How did you find the maintenance people, the handymen, the electricians, the plumbers? How did you vet and kind of come up and compile this list of vendors?
Yeah, I didn't have the list not that long ago. And so I can walk you through it really well. I talk to a lot of people. And so start with forums in bigger pockets, then move to Facebook groups. You can do real estate and investing specific Facebook groups, but you can also join, John, I just joined Des Moines Moms. I'm not a mom, but you know who knows a lot of people? Moms. And so I know that next time I'm in a pickle and I can't find a window repairman because my handyman doesn't do windows, I'm probably going to post in Des Moines Moms and hopefully somebody's brother, cousin, maybe they're doing a renovation themselves, but people know people. And so I go where the people are. And right now it's Facebook groups.
I just think you gave a great insight. I want to make sure our listeners captured, right? First and foremost, you don't have to start with a list. There are ways to go out there and compile a list. And you gave a couple of examples. One, start with forums, go to bigger pockets, go to Facebook groups and multifamily or real estate groups, and just post and ask. Now, I will say this, if that's the only thing you post to the group, you may not get as much engagement or responses. So try to actually be somewhat active, as you're making these requests. But usually people are willing to help. They're happy to give you their feedback, give you the resources, or check out this guy, or hey, I use this person. That's a great place to start. And that powerful insight you gave, check out the Facebook groups, the mom groups in your city, because the moms are really well connected. I don't know about you, but I'm here in Cincinnati, and if we ever need anything, my wife will go into the it's not even a big Facebook group. It's like the subdivisions Facebook group, right? Of moms and the women's group. And they just reach out for everything. If you ever want to know what's going on, if you hear a sound in the neighborhood within 30 seconds, somebody has sent a message in that group. So she just always gives me like the neighborhood updates. But that's going to be a great resource if you're looking for a handyman, a plumber, electrician, things like that. So make sure you're taking advantage of the different resources that are available to you. And that is a powerful insight for anyone looking to start, building up those groups. I'll give you a couple other options as well. If you're part of any meetups or any other organizations, reach out to those groups. Those meetup organizers typically have great connections as well in that market. And just be sure to add value whenever you're talking to people. If they're looking for someone, if you have someone you can recommend, just make sure you kind of pay it forward and be involved in those groups as well. So great insight right there on how you're able to build this list of vendors and manage those individuals, even though you're not always present in those local markets. So let's talk about how you're helping other investors and other agents kind of build their own passive income and develop their portfolio. You kind of coach and help other people do the same thing. Walk us through that process and what sparked you to start helping other people.
Yeah, because people have been helping me. I mean, real estate is a team sport. Real estate investing is a team sport, and you're not meant to be an island. And what I find so fascinating is that on my one on one consultations, 70% of them share with me in that first hour that they're lonely or they don't have anyone to talk to about real estate investing. And I don't know about you, John, but like when you're in the transaction or even after you close and now you're in the asset management stage, like things happen, things go wrong with real estate investing. And you need somebody to talk to. I'm obviously a verbal processor. I mean, most people would just go to Google, but I'm sounds like I'm like your wife. I want to talk to people about my next purchase and ask questions. And I'm finding that I don't know if it's because of like recent world activities and everything going on that people are craving community more than ever. But that is something that I know that I was destined to provide. And so I not only do that through one on one coaching, but I also launched group coaching for real estate investors or those looking to invest in real estate. And then I also have the retreats that I host all over the world because people are craving community and connection.
Sarah, if someone's interested in learning more about kind of the coaching and the platforms you have there, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Probably my website. So it's just sarahdweaver.com. And then, like any good millennial, I'm also on Instagram. Same thing, Sarah D. Weaver.
All right. So make sure you reach out to Sarah on either one of those platforms there. So, Sarah, I want to talk a little bit more about these retreats because you started to hit on it, right? And I'm hearing a few things. You talked about connections earlier. We've talked about community. And I really do think those are really important aspects of being able to grow and thrive as an investor. You host these retreats in different parts of the world. What launched that retreat? Tell me what the first retreat was like and who is this for?
Yeah, great question. This has been like an idea child of mine for a very long time. I think I was destined to be a tour guide, but I don't know if there's any tour guides out there making six figures. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to make something my own. And so I love bringing people together. It's definitely one of my gifts. And I believe people are better together. And so that second retreat that I held was such a great example because I started finally measuring. The first retreat I held, it was women that already knew each other. And so I wanted to measure metrics on my second retreat to see, is what I'm doing helping? I mean, not only are these people enjoying themselves, which was true and to be expected, but is it making a difference? And what I'm really proud to say is that 9 of the 17 attendees went under contract within 2 to 6 weeks after the retreat.
Wow. And these are first
Myself,
time investors or?
they're not first time investors. There was
Okay.
a couple who only owned 1 or 2 rentals, but I think the magic number was between like 7 and 11 units. That was kind of the sweet spot as you
So
look at the
still early
17.
investors, right? These aren't people with huge portfolios that already had 100 deals lined up, ready to go. These are a lot of new or early investors, and they were able to get under contract. Half of them were able to get under contract within just a few short weeks of the retreat.
Yes. And what's really amazing is I didn't know this until I was at the retreat, but even the ones who have 7, 10, 11 units, they more or less all started in 2020 and 2021. So these are people of action. And so when you ask like who the retreats are for, it is someone of action. If you're not sure about real estate investing or you're looking for anyone to convince you to live a big life, we're probably not for you. If you're sitting there saying like, oh yeah, I definitely want to live a big life and I want to be surrounded by people who are doing that as well so that I can be better, then that's the type of person that's really good, a good fit for the retreats.
I think a lot of success is being able to look within yourself and be honest and recognize where you're at, what are the challenges you face, and then identify what do you need to do or who do you need to be around to help you overcome those challenges. And I just find that a lot of people lack that introspective approach to be able to ask themselves those tough questions. Am I looking to live a big life? Am I convinced that real estate investing is the path to help me live this big life or to live the life that I want to design? So as someone is listening to this and listening to this conversation and asking themselves these questions, is there something that they can do to get that clarity that they need to ask the tough questions of themselves? Because the reality is, it's okay if you decide, hey, you know what it takes to truly live a big life and to be successful at that level, I'm not necessarily willing to pay that price. And it's okay if you're not trying to be like Sarah, or you're not trying to be like me, and you're not trying to, do the things that we're doing. Maybe you just want a little extra money on the side. Maybe you just want, a little bit of time, extra time to spend with your family. There's nothing wrong with that. But as someone is listening to this and trying to pick that path for themselves, what are some questions they can ask themselves to get the clarity that they need so they can identify what steps they need to take forward?
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think you perfectly formed the question because I get the question all the time. Sarah, if I had $100,000, how should I invest? What market should I invest in? And I answer it with a question, which is, what is your goal? Because if your goal is to spend more time with your kids, then I wouldn't recommend taking on a flipping business. If your goal is appreciation, well, then I wouldn't invest in some of the markets that I recommend to my clients who are interested in cash flow. And so you have to know your destination. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter where you're going. And so I highly recommend that people pick up a journal. If they don't already have one, go buy one and really sit with yourself and sit with your thoughts and think not where do I want to be in 5 years, but instead, what would be so stinking cool? Like when you think about like, oh man, I'm so jealous of so and so because they have whatever it is. It's probably not that they have a Ferrari. Maybe they do, and maybe that's your jam. Write that down. But it's probably, oh man, like he has this incredible body and he like does things like goes on hikes in Nepal. And if that is cool to you, then write that down and then start forming a life where you can have those things as well. And typically the person that wants this Ferrari or wants the hike in Nepal, they didn't even know that they wanted those things until they sat down pen to paper. And so that activity is just absolutely crucial for anyone, even people wanting to live a pretty normal, safe life. When they hear that I travel all the time, that sounds terrifying or terrible. That's okay. But you too deserve to live a big, exciting life, whatever that looks like to you.
Yeah, that getting that clarity is so key because you don't want to follow someone else's path just to realize you don't like where they're going. So get that clarity, and that will help you understand what next steps you need to take. I actually just had this conversation with someone earlier today where we were talking about different investing strategies. And again, a big chunk of it comes down to what kind of lifestyle you're looking to create, because different paths will create different lifestyles. And you have to make sure that's what you want. And you have to be willing to deal with everything that comes with that along the way. Talk to me a little bit more about these retreats. You're getting these different investors. All of them are motivated, looking to grow their portfolios, looking to live life on a big stage and grow to a next level. What does that process look like when they get there? One, locale, like what are we talking about? Are we talking about some hotel conference room, or where location? What's the setting? And just walk us through some of the exercises that you walk some of these investors and these other folks through at the retreat.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was important. Two things were really important to me. One was that people were comfortable and uncomfortable. And so, comfortable to me was not a hotel conference room. I didn't want anyone showing up in a suit and tie or high heels. I wanted people to be physically comfortable. So, I put them in an Airbnb, and I found an Airbnb big enough where we all have our own beds. There were some people that shared a room, but everyone has their own bed, and we were able to sit in a living room. And some people like chose to sit at the table while others choose to sit crisscross applesauce on the floor. And so I think that was really important to me. And then uncomfortable was sharing intimate pieces of your life. By no means did I ask people to share their salary or how much money they have in 401k. However, they were asking for really detailed, customized investing advice. And those pieces of information are really helpful.
Yeah.
When we know how much capital you have to invest, it's a lot easier for us to create a specific strategy that works for you. And so they were sharing really intimate parts of their life, not only just financially, but also some of them brought up what relationships they were in, how they were or were not working. Some people weren't happy with where they were physically and knew that it's because they're spending too much time at work or their stress level has made it hard to have the physical shape that they want. And that was so beautiful because these people were strangers when they arrived on Thursday. And by Sunday, they were paired up with an accountability partner. They were closer to these people than some of their friends. And at one point, there was conversations of us all doing a syndication together. And so I thought, wow, how cool is this that these people came in as strangers and now we're all leaving like family.
Yeah, I think it's a great experience, right? You talk about immersing yourself in an experience and being open minded, being a bit vulnerable to have these kind of deep conversations, deep reflection, and figuring out what you need to move your business forward. So, retreats are certainly a great way for you to propel forward with that perspective. And to a lesser extent, conferences and other events, right? If you can get around people, spend a couple days in a certain mindset and really lock in, it makes it much easier to get the clarity you're looking for and to grow and grow your business. So I highly recommend spending time and investing your time attending these different types of events and surround yourself with people that share a like-minded goal of living life to its fullest extent. I want to go back, Sarah, because we kind of threw out the term medium term rental a couple of times and we didn't really define exactly what that is. So short-term rentals, I think most people are familiar with what that is, especially in the Airbnb space. Long-term traditional rentals makes, clear sense to people, right? A 12-month lease, you get a resident. When their lease expires, you're bringing a new year-long lease, right? What exactly is a medium-term rental and who exactly are you targeting with that strategy?
Absolutely. I love this strategy and I think it works in a lot of different markets. And so, as cities and counties start to crack down on regulations on short term rentals, so anything under 30-day stays, that's why I started focusing on the medium term rental. So, medium term is a furnished unit similar to a short term or an Airbnb, but then you're booking someone for 30 days or more. They tend not to be month to month in my case, because what I do is I rent to traveling nurses. And so, for those of you not familiar with traveling nurses, a lot of hospitals secure a nurse for a 13-week contract, and the nurse is paid three, sometimes four times as much as a staffed nurse. And I don't have any comments on that. All I can say is that I'm there to create a solution to a problem, which is these nurses don't have housing options. And so I provide a furnished rental for them. It includes utilities and it's really similar in setup to an Airbnb, but I'm not replenishing things like toilet paper and paper towels and coffee. But otherwise, it's almost identical to an Airbnb, but it works in places like Omaha, Nebraska. And so people are like, wait, why did Sarah buy an Airbnb in Omaha? And it was because I wanted to test out this medium term rental strategy. And so let me tell you some numbers. So I bought a fourplex for $320,000. So love those Omaha prices. You probably used to see those prices in Ohio as well. And the fourplex is all one bedroom, one bath units, which do well with traveling nurses. And a long-term tenant, the long-term units are very updated, I should say. The kitchens are nice. And they'll pay anywhere between 800 and 850 a month for a one bedroom. That's unfurnished, 1 year lease, not including utilities. And then I can rent out the same unit in the same building furnished for $1,775.
Wow. That's a huge, huge difference there. Almost $1,000 more, right? So a little less than $1,000 more per month. So that's a huge price difference there. You mentioned some of the differences, right? One is that you're not replenishing toilet paper and coffee and things like that. I know typically with Airbnb, right, you have your laundry, your different housekeeping coming in and cleaning things up, things like that. I presume that doesn't happen until that resident or that guest moves out as well. In regards to, anything else, what are some other differences between kind of Airbnb and the medium term rental there?
Yeah, well, what's really neat is in some markets, you can actually change your settings on Airbnb. You, the host, can change your settings to have bookings of 30 days or more. And so you actually still can secure guest, or in this case, a tenant through Airbnb, which is nice. There's no paperwork. Whereas if I secure them off of Facebook Marketplace or Facebook groups, or what is more common is a website called furnishedfinder.com, then I am giving them an actual lease. And so there is some administrative paperwork when you have to write up a lease. But again, system and processes make that really easy. And then here's the best part for me is 60% of my nurses extend their contract from 3 months to 6 months. So just last night, I got the text from the nurse. She's supposed to be moving out at the end of the month. And she said, "Oh no, like I got offered an extension. Can I extend my lease?" I'm like, yes, because then I don't have to go find another tenant. I'm going to have 0 days of vacancy with a turnover. And she pays on time and she pays $1,775.
It's amazing. On the flip side of that equation, right? So we've got our traditional rental where we know, hey, once you give them the unit, you're pretty much hands off unless there's some maintenance request that kicks in. What are some other differences between the traditional rental and kind of the midterm?
You're paying for utilities, and that's about it. Same thing. I mean, I'll get maintenance requests every once in a while from my medium term tenants, just like I do my long term tenants. But what I like about the traveling nurse is that there's less wear and tear on the unit. They're out there working 12-hour shifts, and I'm so grateful for what they do for the community, and they're exhausted. And so I once had a nurse live in my unit for 3 months, and my cleaner texted me, "It doesn't even look like they used the kitchen." And I said, "Yeah, they probably didn't because they're exhausted." And so I really like the traveling nurses because there's less wear and tear. And then for any landlord out there, it's so nice to get eyes on your unit every quarter, or in this case, sometimes 6 months, because then you can catch things that need to be repaired. And delayed maintenance is never a good thing. And so I like that someone's in my unit telling me what's going on.
Yeah. What about security deposits? How does that work if you're doing a medium term rentals?
If they book through Airbnb, you're covered by kind of that insurance policy. You can request money if something breaks. But for the other situations where you actually write a lease, I do take a security deposit, just like I do with my long-term tenants.
There you go. So lots to explore there. And again, I know you go over this and other things. Folks want to learn more. They could check out your website, sarahdweaver.com, and catch you on Instagram as well, searching for Sarah Weaver. Sarah, great information. I really like the way you talked about holistically how you're helping individuals invest in real estate using this strategy here, as well as, the retreats that you've put together in your strategy as you kind of are this nomad investing across the US, particularly in the Midwest, while traveling all around the world. We're going to change gears now and go to our round of insights. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
Wow, that's a great question. You know what's funny is for the longest time, I spent most of my 20s working for other people who I felt like were underpaying me only because I started looking at my peers who are just as ambitious and driven as I am, but they were making sometimes 70% more than me. Sometimes they were making double what I was making. And if you're listening out there and you're feeling underpaid, your pay and your salary is not a reflection of your worth. Like that is not a reflection. But I spent most of my 20s feeling that way. But here's what's really cool is it was really easy to replace my income because I didn't have very much income. And so it's funny that like what made me feel pretty crappy about myself ended up being this huge benefit to me because it only took $3,000 or $3,500 a month to replace my income. And so I was able to leave my W-2 so much faster than some of my coaching clients. They want to make $10,000 to $12,000 a month before they can quit the golden handcuffs of their cush W-2. And so it's interesting how things kind of play full circle.
No, it's great insight there. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Asana. It is a task management software, or for those of you that don't know what that means, it's a fancy to-do list. And I am buying a lot of real estate. I just closed on my 19th unit, and everything is a process. It's the same process throughout the transaction, getting things rent ready. And so I have Asana templates where I can just copy and duplicate and then do the same process with every unit. And so cannot speak highly enough about some type of task management software, whether it's Trello or Monday, but I prefer Asana.
Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
All right, good one there. Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
Journal. I have to write in my journal. And sometimes, you guys, it's not like I sit with my journal with like incense and I'm writing about my feelings. Sometimes I'm just writing out my to-do list, but there's something about putting pen to paper. So if you're listening to this and you're like, ugh, I don't really journal, that's not really my thing, just buy a journal and do a bulleted list every day.
There are some journals that are templated almost, so they make it a little bit easier for you. So that kind of helped me when I was trying to ease into it as well, because I would sit there with no clue what to write. But anyway, back to you. Give me your number one insight for investing.
Take action. Fear is always going to be there. I just told you I closed on my 19th door. I'm always wondering if I'm doing the right thing, but I don't wonder and then sit around and keep wondering. I wonder and then I take action.
There you go. All right, Sarah, you are all over the place. You are in Des Moines today, but somewhere else, maybe in a couple weeks. Give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Ooh, I dream about these tacos that I had in Pueblo Escondido, which is near Oaxaca in Mexico. And I heard that they're closed, but I will hunt the man down and find him because they were the best tacos I've ever had. So if anyone has taco joint recommendations, please slide them into my DMs. I love tacos.
All right, there you go. Great options. Listen, Sarah, you gave us a ton of information, a ton of insights. I really appreciate you breaking down the medium-term rental strategy, taking the best of Airbnb and the best of long-term rentals and combining them for great profits, as well as all the things you're doing to invest abroad, right? Whether you are traveling around the world or you're actually setting up those rentals, giving us the strategies and the processes to help you keep your business afloat, as well as the coaching you're doing for other investors looking to scale their portfolio. Again, you can check out Sarah at sarahdweaver.com and check her out on Instagram. I just want to thank you again for coming on the show. Look forward to staying in touch with you. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you.